You are listening to Overwatch League Network, the podcast with Deadeye on all the latest Overwatch League news and information. The show with Tactical Visor on all of the statistics and analysis. Here are your hosts, Booger and Tanura.
What's up, and welcome to the new episode of Overwatch League Network with your host Booger and Anura. Before we get started this week and talk about all things Overwatch League, we're gonna take a minute and catch up because it's been about 2 weeks since I talked to you, Anura. It's been kind of crazy the past 2 weeks over on my end. Was not able to get a show out last week. I apologize, but it's a damn week. We haven't had any games, and now we got quite a bit of stuff to talk tonight as well. So before we get into that, Anura, how's your week been going?
My last 2 weeks have been going. It's been pretty wild. I'm currently working 3 jobs, so it's I'm waking up at like 4 a.m. doing a job for 4 to 5 hours, then moving on to the next one, doing that one for about 8 hours a day. But overall, though, I mean, one's temporary, so I'm just trying to grind it out while I can, and it's been really nice. Honestly, it's been like wake up, work, go to sleep, wake up, go to work, go to sleep, and then Saturdays and Sundays are basically I've been watching football and then doing the rest of my schoolwork because I'm only taking a few classes. Overall, though, it's been pretty solid. How about you?
Dude, it's been a little bit wild. Last week I had a car get stolen, but it was kind of weird because I spent like all day trying to figure out how they stole a car that wouldn't start, but it didn't really get that far, so I found it, and I've been dealing with all the stuff that comes with a stolen car and stolen car recovery.
Wait, you found it?
Yeah, I found it. Oh, it's kind of a crazy story. Like, on the way home from work, I kind of was driving around the neighborhood just to like see if I seen it around, because I knew that it didn't start, so I was like, how did they get it that they couldn't have got it that far, because it's been broke down for a minute, and I've been like trying to get some parts and get stuff working on it, but it just ain't been happening for me.
Right.
And then like I found it, and it wasn't that far away, but they fucked my shit up. Oh, my bad. But no, they messed things up. They ripped all the wires out of the bottom. They stole all kinds of stuff out from underneath of it. I think they got a bunch of like stuff out of it for scrap metal and stuff, and it's like kind of a pain in my butt.
What kind was it? What kind of car was it?
It was an old car. It was a 92 Nissan. So like,
yo, I just stole a 92 Nissan.
You just stole one?
Yeah, I ripped a whole bunch of metal sheets out of it because it wasn't working really well. Yeah. Oh shit! Oh, you got me there. All right. All right.
But yeah,
well, I'm glad you found it back though. That's crazy.
I don't know. Like, here's the truth though. Somebody would have just asked for it. I would have given it away. Like, I'm sick of it, dude. It ain't worth anything.
You're right.
And like, I'm not gonna be able to fix it. I'm always so optimistic about being able to fix things, and then you get into it, it's like, oh, I've no clue what I'm doing.
This takes a lot of effort.
Oh yeah,
and I don't know what's
a
going
lot
on.
of tools, and like, I was trying to work on it in an alleyway, so whatever. Time to talk about some Overwatch League.
Let's get into the Overwatch League. Let's go.
So the Chengdu Hunters have decided to clean house with their coaching staff, and RUI has returned. It's kind of not really surprising that Hunters wanted to make some changes with their coaches, especially after this past year when on paper they had like a lot of talent going for them, and they still, like, aside from like a couple upsets at the end of the year, they had a pretty bad record this year. So overall, I think we're gonna just like say this is not really a surprise to me. But what do you think about it?
Well, not to toot my own horn, but toot. I said that they weren't going to be that good without RUI. RUI made this comp and made these players work around each other really, really well. And this season has shown what a directionless coaching staff will do to a team that has such a direct way of working with the ball comps, with whatever they're doing, these one tricks that they have. And I mean, they brought in Chen. Chen was a newer signing, and they started to look better. They looked a lot better. But Chen also wants to go back to casting. So I think this is a win-win for everyone where RUI gets his team back. Now they have time to build the team with RUI to where it'd be like what he wants. Chen can go back to casting. The other two coaches were bad and they shouldn't be in the league anyway, so who cares?
Ooh.
So it's a win-win. It's a win-win for it's looking good. It's looking like an upside for Chengdu. I hope they look into a little player called Dia from the Shanghai Dragons, whose contract is up after this year and has been looking really good in contenders. So just keep your eye out on that. I'm pretty sure Dia is a hot commodity for the Chengdu Hunters.
Yeah, I really wouldn't be surprised if this is not the end of changes in the Hunters lineup and staff, because, you know, with the year they've had, they don't really have anything like to. I don't want to say it in a mean way, but they don't really have anything to be proud of after this season. Like, they did.
I think they beat everyone.
Their record was.
They beat everyone at least once. It's pretty cool.
I think they beat everyone only once then, because they only win like 5 games.
They beat Shanghai, they beat Charge, they beat Spark, and they beat London.
Yeah, but
I mean,
yeah, I guess
that's better than I thought. But I mean, overall, yeah, it wasn't like that impressive, but they had a really good ending to the year. And I think people knew the problem with this team was the coaching staff, because they've looked better and they looked really lost. Not saying they don't need changes in other areas, but I do think that this team with the right direction could go further than where they came this year.
Oh, there's definitely pieces of this team that could go way further. Like, I think Leave is a legit player, and it kind of it feels.
I think Leave was underwhelming this year.
And I wonder if he would have been if he was on a different team. Like, it feels like we had a lot of promise for him coming into the season, and then this year he just, like, I don't know. We haven't really talked about him too much at all. And
I think you give him a shot next year because of his just straight up determination and the way he's played in the past. You definitely give him a shot, but also you look at other DPS. You look at your support line. You maybe look. I mean, Yveltal is probably one of the best Mercies in the league. Let's be honest. The dude's insane on Mercy, which is a hard thing to say, but he really is that good. You look at the main tank. You definitely keep him main because ball comp is always going to be ball comp for Chengdu. You can't get rid of that.
Yeah, it's their idea.
But you try to find a main tank that can do everything else, because you really don't have one, and you tried with adding and rutting, and you just didn't work out. Maybe look at Elsa, see what else can happen. Late Young's their Zarya specialist. I didn't think they needed a Zarya specialist. I was wrong. Late Young's pretty good at it, and he performed really well. So I mean, build the team how you want it. You're Chengdu Hunters. All you need is a few wins, and you'll have your fans. Let's be honest. Just keep going.
Oh, for sure. And, you know, there's not a lot of places to go except for up, and I kind of, you know, I don't want to say too much bad about the Hunters because they are a they're cool. They're very cool, but like 8-14. Hopefully
they are
looking for a better season next year.
The upset team. They will upset you if you don't prepare for them. You don't want to play against them. They changed that this year a little bit, but as soon as they got a new coaching staff that don't understand what to do, they went back to being just as dangerous as they were before. That makes any sense. Like, it's like they're a dangerous team, and that's exactly where they need to keep going. As in, do you want to play the Chengdu Hunters because you don't know what they're gonna you know what they're gonna bring out. You don't know how to play against it because no one else plays the same way they do.
For sure.
Do you? That's the team I want from Chengdu. They don't need to win anything. It'd be great if they did. They don't need to win anything. They just need to be that dangerous where you're like, I don't know. It's Chengdu.
Ain't nobody.
They need the Chengdu zone. The Chengdu zone is the perfect, like, you don't know what's gonna happen next, and I think that's exactly where they need to be.
Yeah. So we'll throughout the rest of this coming off season, we'll keep an eye on the Hunters and see if we can get any info about stuff they're going to be doing in the future. But we also got the Toronto Defiant releasing Lil Bo, their interim head coach. He'd been with the Defiant for a little while, since the last offseason, and when he signed as an assistant coach, and then he took over as interim head coach back in April. And under his team, while he was head coach, the team was 4-9, and prior they were 3-5. So not too different than where they started out, but we're definitely looking at the Defiant to be making some changes in this offseason as well, because I don't think that the Toronto Defiant, another 8-14 team, the exact same as the Hunters, I don't think their players, their fans, their staff, I don't think anybody was satisfied with that season for them this year. So I definitely think that players, if their contracts are up, I think they're getting new players there. Wouldn't you say so?
I don't know exactly if they're going to get new players. Now, sure, their performances were not good, and they definitely need to get. I'd say you need to replace a few of these club players, if not like half to most of them. But you keep some of these players because of their marketability. And I'm not saying keep Surefour, because I'd love for them to keep Surefour, but Surefour, I don't think wants to play in the league anymore. So I don't know if we're going to see him. I don't know if he's going to switch teams to something more competitive. Maybe he's going to switch games. I don't know what's going on with him. You keep Surefour if you can, and you try to build around him. I still believe this, even though he did not play this year. I still believe you build around him. You definitely build around Logix. You build around this amazing player. You keep Zik because he's been so like useful. You look at the tank line. You look at Numlocked. Is he going to be your leader going through? And if you believe that, then you keep him. The main thing you need to get is a solid coaching staff, and to really work on what you need for you. It's really going to be the staff around this team. I mean, their head coach left, Fefe left, their GM left. Like, that's basically the two most important positions to keep the team afloat. They're gone. They were gone, and Little Bull had to step up. So I mean, I don't blame Little Bo for losing this position, because that was a hard thing to keep when you just come out of nowhere as assistant coach. He's probably just working with players, into now a head coach where you have to come up with a strategy. You don't really have that many people. What are you supposed to do? Like, this is it was a lose for Little Bo, but I mean, Toronto, I don't know exactly what they need to change, but I feel like you can't go wrong with replacing any of these players, and you can't go right with leaving them. That makes it. I don't know if that made sense, but
no, I got you.
The main thing, you need changes. You just figure out what's the right ones. Some people might say Kareev needs to go. That's debatable. Some people really like Kareev. I think Kareev's been mediocre his like whole career, with some high points. Sometimes he pops off, and sometimes he throws matches. You can look at their last match against my team, the Gladiators. You could definitely tell. I think who talked about it? It was on Tactical Crouch. I think it was Joe and Yuska, and they talked about Kareev in the last map. And I have to agree with them on that point, where I think Kareev really did throw their last map against the Gladiators, and ultimately cost them the rest of the season. You look at Kareev, I think you might build around... I'd honestly might build around Numlocked and Cruz, because I think those are both really good in-game leaders who are... Although they're not like the highest skilled, they are very. Those are two EU players, but they're like really vocal, and they're really good leaders. And I think that's what this team needs. I don't know if you could beast a second shot. I don't know. It's all up to them what exactly they want to do with this roster. If they want to keep Agilities and Kareev for the merchandise, I don't think Surefour's staying, but if they could, try to keep Surefour, try to make it like, hey, no, we're going to be competitive next year. But all I know is their owner's not happy, or their co-GM's not happy. Changes are happening. I'm excited to see where they're going to go, because this team actually does care about results. And I'm hoping for a better year next year for them.
For sure, for sure. The Defiant seemed like they could be such a likable team, but they really just gotta get some good seasons under their belt. And I think they could really build a pretty big like fan base, like bigger than they have now, just by having by winning.
For being Canadian.
Yeah, well that and like
Yeah.
they need to win, but
Yeah.
we're gonna go ahead and we got you actually brought this up to me just a little bit before the show where we got some info from Paintbrush about the overall like workings inside the Dallas Fuel team, and he said that the team culture was just like a mess before he started. And then there's like a Reddit post where it goes through with some like translations or like cliff notes, I guess, and says what he thinks. And it literally says that him and Crimzo were the only ones scrimming by the end of the team or by the end of the season, and that
Well,
go ahead.
yeah. It wasn't them scrimming. As of right now, they are the only two scrimming.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That
As
makes
of
any
right
sense.
now, they're the only two that are playing with the team, like for Dallas, and it's I don't know. You want to go ahead and break down a little bit more of this?
Yeah, I'll try to break it down to where like it's digestible. But basically, overall, team culture was messed up before he came in. Right now, only him and Crimzo are scrimming. It's like a big thing. Right now, they're scrimming with a whole bunch of Overwatch League players, and they're playing against contenders teams. But it could be a mismatch of whoever wants to scrim right now. NNA probably. Major changes are coming to Dallas Fuel. Paintbrush is looking at an extension probably. He also talks about how he prefer a team house, but the facilities are fine. I don't really care about that. He talks about Vancouver match, their last match. Everyone had issues with people, and some people didn't like Arrow. After that game, they talked about all this, and Arrow got much better with the team. So apparently there were some issues between the players and Arrow. But after I think it was the Vancouver match where they lost against Vancouver after like not playing Decay a while back. I think it was like Paintbrush's first game. And then he talks about Young, how he doesn't want to be head coach. That's fine. And Young would never get mad, but you just get disappointed. Paintbrush, he talks about his past first, where he was initially going to get traded to Vancouver, which I thought would be fantastic for him instead of Dallas. And either way, it looks like he's getting probably paid more Dallas, and he might be getting the reins to the start of this year. He grinds rank most days. Doesn't care who's on his team, Koreans, non-Koreans. As long as there's a translator. It says that he tries to set up scrims and talk to people in the Fuel Discord. No one responded. He used to get people to interact in Gladiators that way by saying, let's get some scrims together or something like that. He said that he's expecting his contract to get extended, which I think is the biggest news here, is that Paintbrush looks like what they're building off of, and they're going to build everything else around that. Doesn't know much about Decay. He thinks he's a good person, but maybe not good professionally with NA players, probably is what he meant fully. But Crimzo, he hopes Crimzo's resigned. He hopes Notes resigned. He hopes Oniga's resigned. Gamsu, he didn't really talk about Gamsu. Talks about Harry Hook. I don't know if we went through the Harry Hook situation, but
Yeah.
basically he thought it was chill. But I mean, the situation he believed was a lose-lose for Harry Hook. I can't disagree with that. I do think Harry made it into a lose-lose-lose, but that's just me personally. Doha speaks good English. There was a culture gap between him and the rest of the players. Thinks he's a good player. He'll probably get picked up by another team. ACAM, never talked to ACAM. Only talked to him when he was on Gladiators. As soon as he joined the Fuel, or like during that time, he never talked to ACAM. ACAM wasn't even part of the team, basically, is what he was saying. Closer, never played or talked to him. Closer, the guy he replaced, he never played or talked to. Only DM'd. Thought he seemed nice and he spoke good English, which means they were basically done with Closer by the time Paintbrush came in. It wasn't like a battle. It was, we're done with you. You're done. We're moving on. Trill is funny and chill. Unko, talked to him a bit. He's nice. Basically, I think the last four people we talked about, AKM, honestly, no, Doa, Harry's already gone. maybe Gamsu, Doha, AKM, Closer, Trill probably are gone, and Unko are probably gone from this team. Not to mention they need a new head coach.
Oh yeah.
What was that? They need a head coach, assistant coach, everything.
Yeah, I think those last 4 players they weren't really playing at the end of the season either. So I don't know.
They weren't playing in the beginning of the season.
It sounds like Dallas has a lot to work on in this off season.
It's a rebuild. I'm so excited for a rebuild for them.
That's for sure. They need it, and hopefully they do it with. They got rid of Arrow, so I don't want to blame him, but that's kind of been a constant with their. He's been there since the start of the Fuel, and the Fuel have been disappointing since the start. So.
Well, he wasn't there in the start.
Not the
start. He was there at season 1, like stage 4, season 1, and he was on the hot seat. Obviously, he was on the hot seat. It was crazy that he made it this far through the season, even though he's been on the hot seat since season 2. They needed a lot of changes.
Yeah, and
the direction they're going, it looks like, I believe in Envy as an org. I believe they can do right. I mean, Dallas Empire just won Call of Duty League. They know what they're doing. They just had a really bad read going into season 1 in general, and then going out of season 1. I think they both had a terrible read. I think that's why AKM, Closer, I wouldn't say Trill, but AKM and Closer, AKM and Unko, and I got whole like group, Harry Hook, a lot of the other players. I mean, Mickey before he left, all these people got re-signed into this team that will only look good stage 4 of season 1. I think they got re-signed to 2-year contracts, and that's why they're here at season 3. That's why I really do think Unko and AKM, even though both of them did not play at all this year, were put in this team. And then Closer was, I think, a season 2 edition, which I think they also put through 2 years. And I mean, it was a good addition. I think Closer was fine, but I mean, I think I talked about this podcast before, how I didn't think he was good for this team or like good as a Lucio player. I don't think you're not going to win with Closer. I don't believe you're ever going to win with a Closer. I don't think you're going to win with AKM. I don't think you're going to win with Unko. You can say that about guys like Paintbrush, but Paintbrush is at least grinding the game and trying to get better and trying to become a team leader for this team. Meanwhile, these guys just gave up probably midway through season 2. Like, it's no point at having them. So overall, I do think this is a really good change for Dallas.
For sure. Because, Dallas just needs changes. They got to fix what they got going on. But I
mean, they thought they had it with Decay, and they...
Yeah.
I don't know.
We could literally spend the rest of this episode talking about problems with Dallas. But instead of that, we're going to go ahead and mention...
fresh slate, yeah.
We've got 2 teams, the Washington Justice and the Guangzhou Charge, both announcing that they're holding open tryouts during the off-season. So my question is, Anura, which team are you trying out for?
Oh, I want to go for the Charge. I mean, why would you ever go for Washington?
Oh, dude, I was going to try for Justice just because, Charge, that's a long way to travel.
Yeah, I guess you're right on that end. But at least they have NA players.
With the Justice,
at least they have.
Still like visit my dog once every while or so.
That's fair. Yeah, you're right. You're right on that end. See, I don't have those obligations you might have. That's why I went with the Charge. I was like, I can't speak Korean. I'm not gonna learn fast. I guess Charge probably also speaks Korean, but at least they have NA players, so maybe like they can lean me in as their Lucio player, obviously, because that's all I can play. But yeah, overall, I mean, to be honest, I think these are a great thing to have for teams. I think Washington is going to be a great way at scouting. I think their head coach right now, I want to say it's a Wizard. Or Seven Supreme or something like that. I don't remember. I don't remember the name of their coach, but overall, I think that he's been doing fantastic with the new rendition of Washington. And if they can keep Decay, this could be a really dangerous team next year.
I don't think they can. Oh, we'll have.
You don't think they can?
We'll do an off-season episode about that, dude.
Dude, imagine Washington Justice without Roar and having an actual main tank.
Like Muma?
No, not like Muma. Stop bringing up Muma.
Kidding.
No,
Imagine
like an actual main tank, like Mag. Like no, not even Bumper. Like an actual main. I love Bumper. I do, and I hope he makes it. I don't think he's playing anymore. I don't even know what he's doing.
Okay.
But my main thing is like I think Washington with a few extra pieces actually looked pretty good.
Oh, for sure.
They're looking better and better. I never thought Stitch would look this good.
And
I mean, I know I've talked a lot of trash about Stitch.
Imagine how good they would have been.
Well, they wouldn't even be the same team if Corey didn't leave.
You're
Like,
right.
They're not even Korean anymore if Corey didn't leave. You know, this is a decay town now. We don't talk about Corey. Corey's over playing a different game. We don't a weird game where you have snipers.
You have to aim a lot.
And you have to use them, and there's no shields. Like what's up with that? Like how are you gonna defend yourself with no shields? But
May's still there.
I think that Washington and Charge can both find really good players for cheap. I think Valiant really showed that. I think partially London did. I mean, I think overall, I think Charge is gonna have the most value out of this because they can literally look at any region because they don't really care. They have Chinese players, they have Korean players, they have North American players. They have European players. You can look anywhere to find these players. Washington's a little bit more interesting. I wonder if they're going to try to find a main tank in there. I think they need to find another main support. I think Ark's great on Mercy. But overall, I think they need to find someone better for the Lucio, maybe Baptiste. They have a lot of work to do to find like the right players. But if they find a good 10 or 11 man squad, Washington could be really dangerous next year. And I think Charge, with a few additions of players that you probably never thought of that could be really good, could also bounce back after having 2 mediocre playoffs in a row because they've looked really good and just fell off during playoffs. Charge is looking for the next level. How can we go further in playoffs? Washington is looking to be a top team in the near future. I'm not saying they need to make far into playoffs like they did this year, based off of a wild comp they came up with, but they need to find a way to be more competitive. They can't be trashed here for 3 seasons. That's just not acceptable. So let's hope that Washington gets competitive. Let's hope that Charge gets competitive, and I hope these open trials really bring out some players that we never thought would be good. I hope they bring out the next Dreamer, the next KSP. I hope more teams do this.
Oh,
basically.
for sure.
Is where I'm ending.
And as soon as you say open trials, I can't help but mention what I think of is that Always Sunny episode where they try out for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Right.
And it's just like open tryouts. It's like, it would be maybe I should try out for it just to see what it'd be like to get wrecked by people that actually know how to play Overwatch. But we all know.
I'm sure the trials have an SR limit.
I would probably end up like, if you've seen that episode of Always Sunny, I'd end up like Frank, just locked in an RV, stuck, trying to play Overwatch from an RV. But anyways, we're gonna go ahead and Overwatch League, we're down to our final 4, and we haven't talked about this a whole lot, but there's a couple week downtime right now because the teams are traveling to South Korea. They have to quarantine, get safe, but we're here for the first time to talk after we have our final 4 established. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go through each team of the final 4 and talk about how they got there. And starting off with this, we're gonna have the San Francisco Shock, who are the North American winners bracket champions. They started off their first game against the Washington Justice, which they've won in a reverse sweep, and then they moved on to face the Atlanta Reign with a 3-1 victory, and now we had the Shock go up against, I guess the 2020 rivals, the Shock and the Fusion, and they went up against the Fusion and beat them 3-1, landing them a spot in the final 4. So, how unsurprised are you that the Shock are going to the Final Four?
I mean, I'm not surprised they made it to the Final Four.
Me neither.
I was really surprised on how easily they dismantled the Fusion and
Yup.
I think that was. I think I did call it, but it wasn't nearly to the level I thought.
Yeah, I thought that they could win.
I thought they would win, and I think that, but I didn't think they were going to dominate that easily against Fusion.
Yeah.
So going into this next, oh, dude, they're so dangerous, and it's so stupid. And then I need 1 year where Shock just flops. I know they had season 1, and it's only third season, but it's not going to be this year. I see Shock at least second place this year, no matter where you're looking at it. I don't see them losing to both Fusion and Shanghai, or Seoul, which are the other teams we're talking about. But I see them at least finals easily.
I wouldn't be surprised.
So, I mean, first of all, this team is, I think, the most well-oiled machine I've ever seen in sports history alone. I'm not talking esports history. I'm talking sports history in general. This team is so well made, and just it's a functioning machine where it's like, okay, Sinatra left. All right, we'll pick a few players that help that out. If not, we still have the players to work around it. I mean, Choi and Smurf are insane. Super's probably the best Reinhardt in the league. Moth is an insane Lucio and Mercy, and they have 2 flex supports that are both probably in the top 5 flex supports, and they just have them both. Like the Twilight sits on the bench and just plays Ana, and then Violet goes on and plays Zen and Baptiste, and like, dude, the team's dirty. It's just so stupidly dirty to where it's hard to root against them right now. Some people might say Shanghai's better. I say Shanghai doesn't have the experience like Shock does. Shock has a really interesting clutch factor that we saw against the Washington Justice, I guess 3 weeks ago. Meanwhile, some teams really do struggle under pressure. I know Shanghai's also came back from a huge thing, but I think right now for me it's Shanghai and Shock. And how can you really get Shock when they won last year? This team is so dirty, nasty, disgusting, and I mean, it's a dynasty. This team's a dynasty. You can't deny it. You can't go away from it. The fact that they beat Fusion this badly after Fusion looked so good the week before is insane. And I mean, I don't like. What do you think about the Shock?
Oh yeah, I think they definitely have a very good chance of winning, getting first or second. Like they're the champions of the winners bracket. They didn't lose. The other team going from NA, Philly. Actually, you want to go ahead? I think you said I agree with pretty much everything you said about Shock. It's just like not surprising they're going there. They have a good chance to win it all. Like they looked insanely good over the beating teams like Philly. And you know, like it's their game to win right now. I know that the Dragons might have, I think Dragons and Shock pretty much have an equal chance. But we're going to talk about some other teams and how they stamped their ticket to the Final Four. And that next team we'll talk about is the Philly Fusion, who the Philly Fusion kicked off their tournament run with a 3-0 victory over the Gladiators, following up with a 3-0 victory over the Los Angeles Valiant. Then they ran into the brick wall that is the San Francisco Shock, losing 3-1, bumping them to the lower bracket, which put them in a game against the Washington Justice, who was on the Cinderella run of, I don't know, like one of the craziest Cinderella runs we've ever seen.
Of this year.
Yeah, for sure.
Of this year.
And Philly just stomped on them 3-0.
Yeah.
So that's how Philly got there. They lost the Shock, but they still were able to make it. And, you know, Philly, they were the number 1 seed, but the number 1 and number 2 seed, pretty indistinguishable when it comes to the NA side, when it comes to, like, power. And then there's overall that one was 24-2 and one was 25-3. So, like, their records are pretty similar when it comes throughout this whole season. But it just seems like when these games come down, it just seemed like the Shock is better than the Fusion. And I think that the Shock being better than the Fusion kind of damns the Fusion to third or fourth place for real. Wouldn't you say so?
I don't know.
I definitely think the Fusion could beat Dynasty, but I don't really think.
I think the Fusion could beat Shanghai as well.
Could.
Yeah, I know. I just said Shanghai and Shock looked the most dominant, but
Philly definitely could. You're right.
Philly, for me personally, I do think that I didn't talk about it earlier, but I think also we can bring back to Tackle Crouch talk about this as well, and they looked a lot cleaner than Asia did in these playoffs. I think personally, I believe that. I think they're very correct about that statement where Philly and Shock looked really, really good, both of them. And I mean, Shock just perfected it over a week. Typical Shock, it's what they do. But Philly looked solid all year, but not only all year, but like this whole playoffs. Sure, they lost to Shock. Well, that's after a week. I think literally, if you said, as soon as Philly beat, I think Valiant and Shock barely won to Washington Justice, and they played the next day, that you would say that Philly probably would have won that game. I don't think Shock would have won the game. But now that they had a week apart, it was definitely more in Shock's favor because the coaching staff's just insane. But with that being said, Philly has more time to now recognize their flaws and what they did wrong and really come back and adapt. I think Philly's probably the most adaptive team I've seen in a while. You can see that with how they came back after literally a day to play against the Washington Justice to crush them 3-0 after teams like Florida Mayhem and Valiant both failed to do that. And even Shock, you can say, failed to do that after playing and almost losing to them. So, I mean, this team is very adaptive, and depending on the meta that's coming up, because the meta could be completely different by now. We don't know. Philly has a high shot. This team is very dangerous. The support line's insane. I don't think I need to say that Funny Astro and Alarm are good, because everyone knows these are two of the best support players in the league. Sado, Fury could be an insane tank duo. Same thing with Poco. And their DPS, if you give them the right meta, can really pop. I think Hisu is probably one of the best prospects coming into this year. Not talked about enough. Carpe's got clutch factor. We haven't seen it in playoffs yet, really. But overall, he has clutch factor. Ivy's looked really good on the May. And EQO is a really good substitute as well. And I mean, Carpe's the best Doomfist you've ever seen. I said Carpe. God damn it, Chipsa's the best Doomfist you've ever seen. I messed it up, and it really makes me mad. But I think this team's solid. Like there's definitely a shot, and they're not looking for second place. This team is a failure at second. It's sad to say they are a failure at second place. They're a failure at third place. They're a failure at first place. They're looking for first place this year. They need it. I think Shock had it last year. Shock can be fine with a second place victory. Shanghai, oh my God, like look at you go. You were terrible 3 years ago. Look at you now. Either way, it's a success. I mean, Philly's already made it to finals, failed. Has not won one tournament yet. They need a victory. And how sweet it would be for them to get it in the playoffs.
That would be insane.
I think this is literally the time that you need to see Philly win. I'm not going to root for Philly because my friend really likes Philly. So I never root for them, but I do think they need this. So
I'll never root for Philly. Yeah,
we never do that. But
this is not a pro Philly podcast.
This is anti Philly. I know. I saw your rankings. Saw where you put Philly.
I've been waiting for y'all to bring that back up.
I know personally you're not the biggest fan of Philly. You weren't believing in the support line or whatever. But yeah, I mean this team really does need it. They've spent a lot of money, but also they have the coaching staff. They have a really adaptive. We've talked about it. I'm just going in circles, but adaptive good players that should be able to adapt on the fly, and with the right meta, they should be able to beat any team. So hopefully we see top Philly this year, top Shock this year, top Shanghai, and I do think Philly at their top could probably beat both of those teams in the right meta. So let's hope we get a good finals and these teams could really pop off.
Yeah, and then we're going to go ahead and move on to another team we got and talk about how they got there. And that's the Shanghai Dragons. Dragons started with a double bye, so they only had to play 2 games to get in. And the first one was a 3-1 victory over NYXL, and then a 3-2 victory over the Seoul Dynasty. And now the Shanghai Dragons have looked incredibly dominant this year, putting up a 27-2 season, the most wins in the whole league, because they played the most games. I'm sure if they played 3 more games, Philly or Shock could have had 27 as well. But just how it is, Shanghai Dragons technically are the number 1 team going in. And, you know, it could be said they are that strong. Like, the Dragons are a really insanely good team. And we got them coming up, the Dragons versus XL. We got that coming up 3-1, and then Dynasty was a pretty damn close game. So the Dragons are not looking unbeatable, but I think a lot of people might have them as their favorite. Anura, what do you think?
It depends if you want to give into the Asia hype, and I think it is there. I think it's very possible. For me personally, I don't know. I do think Shanghai should be a favorite easily. I mean, you look at the DPS line, and they're insane. Like Fled and Lip are both amazing players. They still have DM and Ding in the back line. Like, those are 2 starters that should be starting anywhere else, but they're not, because Fled and Lip have looked so solid. Tank line, Fearless. Oh my God, the story of Fearless is insane. This team. Oh my God, like, this dude. We didn't go 0-40, but he was part of the 0-40 team. Went back to contenders, grinded his head out, came back to the same team. By the way, didn't go to a new team. It's like, yeah, I'm part of Shanghai. I'm gonna stay on Shanghai. I'm gonna get them wins, and he has. He's probably one of the best tanks in the league right now. I don't think you can argue that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Void, like, such a solid player. He's just been consistent all 3 years, and this is easily his best season. I mean, the tank line is really insane. Their support line's also insane. I think Luffy and Yaki have both shown really good strength this year. And then it's Lee Jingong, right? Is that their main support? I kept blanking out, but he's insane. Lee Jingong is actually, like, people don't talk enough about him. He was probably one of the top main support pickups going into this year, and he's really proved that. Not to mention their coaching staff seems very strong in a way to where they figure things out really fast. And it seems that also a really adaptive team, but also just strong what they can do. I'd be scared in a dive against this team. I'd be scared in double shield against this team. I don't see a weakness with this team. With that being said, I don't know their main strengths. If that makes any sense. I think Fleta and Lip are insane. They can both pop off. But with NA never touching Asia, and Asia being such a bubble where you play the first, like, same 6 teams, it could turn out to be just Shanghai's that much better than these 6 teams. Meanwhile,
how
Shock
are they going to
Philly,
stand up to the Shock? That's
Shock Philly had to play the highs of Florida, the highs of Paris, the highs of what's another team that I can think of? I mean, both Philly and Shock, the highs of those 2. Highs of Valiant double hit scam. Like, these teams really did pop off. Meanwhile, I think Shanghai only really faltered against Charge during the Genji meta. I think that was Melee, or it was the Summer Showdown. I don't remember exactly. I don't know. Although I do think Asia was stronger in general, I do think there was higher peaks in NA that could have really built up both Shock and Philly to be better than what they were. So for me, I do have them. They should be a favorite. Obviously, their first seed, Asia. But if they don't have the right meta read, NA does, like both Shock and Philly does, I do see rolls. I do think these are 2 teams that could fight Dragons the way that Dynasty has with map 5s, the way that Charge did with the Genji meta. These are both Shock and Philly should be major dangers for this team. And you shouldn't take it lightly. This is it's now finals. This is it.
Oh,
If
for
Shanghai can do it, for me, it's going to be these three teams are both so good in certain situations, both Shock, Philly, and Shanghai. For me, it's almost impossible to tell who's going to win it all.
And then we still have one more team left.
We do
to talk about how they got there. And the Seoul Dynasty, they overlap a little bit with the Shanghai's path, and they've had a quite a bit longer route than the Dragons. You know, we had Seoul start off with a 3-0 win over the Spark, following that with a 3-0 win over the Charge. That close game we talked about earlier, that's the 3-2 with the Dragons. And then we also have Seoul Dynasty, once they got down to the loser bracket, they took on New York XL and beat them 3-0. So the only maps that the Dynasty have dropped coming into this was the 3 to the Dragons. And, you know, Dynasty this year, when they're hot, they're hot. And when they're not, they're not. Like, it's kind of surprising that Dynasty's the fourth team. You know, they're 12-12. They broke even over the regular season, and here they are in the Final Four. So that sounds like an upset machine to me. While we talked about the Washington Justice rolling through with the craziest upsets ever in the NA division, we had the Seoul Dynasty pretty quietly pulling off some big games here. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think Seoul's really got a chance to upset somebody. I mean, that's for sure. Maybe not knock somebody out of the tournament, but to upset them.
No, okay. Well, first of all, this is where the dark horse comes in, the X factor. This is the team that you were like, this team shouldn't be here. They're here. And you can't deny it because, they have Profit and Gesture, two of the highest skilled players when it comes to playoffs. These guys, I think, have only lost one or two times in playoffs. I guess they've lost a few times now in Asia, but previous to season 3, they've lost a lot of the playoff matches that they've been, especially final matches. I think they've only lost now 2, both being to Shanghai, of being in the finals of a tournament. These players, Profit, Gesture, have looked really, really good in these playoff situations. They're so clutch. They're a clutch team, and Toby's really stepped up. I think they've been playing creative a lot, which is a very interesting thing. I never thought creative was going to be played that much, especially since they have Badosin. But I think that's an interesting take. They've been playing different metas than everyone else. Everyone else has been playing more like Winston Zarya-esque things. Meanwhile, they've gone more with Pig's Feet, which is like Hog Sigma, or what was the other one? Hog Diva, was it Hog Zarya? Forgot the full meta. It's been a few weeks. But I think they're playing the different meta, which for me, if Seoul wins it all, they win it all. And like Profit's the best player, Gesture's playoff proof. But this is the team that I'm like, if any team would go down and like easily, I'm not surprised it'd be this team. I think they could be easily countered and read. And unlike the teams they've played before with NYXL, with Charge, all 3 of these teams are very highly flexible and really easy to adapt on the fly. Meanwhile, Seoul, I have not seen that nearly as much. And that's where I'm mostly skeptical with them, where it's like, if Seoul comes out with some wacky comp like Hog Sigma, like in any of the previous like weird metas of like Hog Zarya, I think that, first of all, both Shock and Fusion have shown that they could beat Hog Zarya with some comp changes, and then Shanghai just beat Seoul. So Seoul's easily like the lowest on this total poll for things. But let's talk about this in another aspect of Seoul, where it's, look at where Seoul was being placed in the beginning of this year, and look where they are now. where they were looking like this could be mediocre. I can't believe they're picking up this London roster that looked terrible last year. These players could be really bad, like that, not bad, but like they're very streaky.
Yeah.
And Soul said, okay, I know they're streaky. I know they're streaky players. I know they could blow up because they definitely blew up in London. And London was a absolutely terrible place to be season 2. I mean, you can just look at how many players left and they're all on different teams now. But they said, we'll give it another go. We're going to try these players again. And for the most part, how can you deny this result of being top 4? This is a win season for Seoul.
I think so.
First win season they've had. Let's be honest. I think they lost in was it early playoff season 2, and then they didn't even make playoff season 1. So I mean, this is a win. This is you guys did that. Only one team can win the Overwatch League, of course, and I think that's Seoul's next goal next year is to get a team that can win the Overwatch League. And first of all, they could do it this year. They could. Absolutely. I don't see it happening. This is a really good step. They have probably the best player in the world in Profit.
Agree.
They have Gesture, which I still think that Marv could have beat him out in a lot of these metas, but he's looked really solid in this playoffs. They have Marv 1 playing off tank. I still don't understand that, but they're doing it. And they've worked with their support line that I think is probably easily the weakest in this top 4, but also have looked pretty mediocre this whole year, excluding sometimes in some playoff games. But I mean, you see the resurgence of Toby. Maybe Toby's actually that good again. Maybe his Baptiste and Mercy are that good, or Baptiste and Lucio are that good, and we've just been missing out. I mean, Creative looks like he's been really finding a spot on the team. If not, Badosin's looked really solid. Profit Fitz have looked like a really good duo. Fitz had a really good hype going into this year, and he's really showing it this playoffs. Oh God, did it just end it?
What's that?
My Audacity just died. My Audacity just crapped out.
Well,
yeah,
we'll
but
figure it out.
Oh, that's fine. But yeah, I think overall, I think Souls look solid. But for me, they're definitely the 4th team.
Yeah, and then I think that kind of wraps up what we got to talk about for playoffs coming up. And the people that have been listening these past couple of weeks, we've given out some awards for teams just that we feel like giving out. And this week, I thought it'd be cool to get a little bit into the stats lab, and we were going to give an award to, I thought it'd be cool to mention the player with the most flooded deadlifts all season. And I looked it up, and what do you know? There's only 2 players that pulled off a flooded deadlift more than once this season, and one of them's Fleta. The other one being Glister. So Fleta and Glister, they get a tie for the award for most flooded deadlifts. Kind of funny how the stat named after him, Fleta gets, you know what I'm saying?
Well, of course.
It only makes sense that he would be one of the people
MVP.
cranking them out for sure. And
Did we talk about MVP?
Yeah, we did, didn't we?
Okay.
I'll look it up, and we can do it next week. We got another week off before games, so
okay.
Next award we're gonna do the best Tracer. Why? Because I love watching Tracer in the Overwatch League, and it's like the mascot, and it's our rewards, and we do what we want. Exactly. Felt like it. And statistically, we narrowed it down to 3 of the top Tracer players, and we are going to give each of them a gold, silver, and bronze medal, just like the Olympics. So our 3 options we're going to have is Shax, Striker, and Fleta. Statistically, these players ranked highest when it comes to damage, final blows, and eliminations per 10 minutes. And, just watching, when I seen those people were at the top of the list, it just kind of makes sense. So, Anura, which one of these do you think gets the bronze medal? Who's the bronze medal Tracer? Not bronze like the ranked system, but y'all know what I mean.
Right.
We're talking Olympics, not
Man.
Overwatch.
I can tell you it's between Fleta and Shax. And based off of their teams, I'm going to give the bronze to Shax.
Same.
Sadly, I think Shax have been, oh my God, he's been incredible on the Tracer this year. I think that's easily his best hero. Is his strength. Like, this is where you want to play Shax. Maybe on the Reaper as well. We saw that earlier, but his Tracer is next level. Yeah, he's my bronze because I think Fleta really did prove that he can be a Tracer player as well.
Yeah, he had some.
He hasn't looked that
crazy.
he didn't look he didn't look that strong on Tracer the previous years, but this year he beat out Sabiolbi, which was insane to me. Just based off of his thought process and how he plays the game. I don't think it was straight mechanics. I think it's just his thought process and how he plays the game. But are you with me with the silver as well?
Yeah.
Who do you have as your silver? Just to make sure.
Fleta. Yeah, I'm right on with
Fleta,
you.
yeah. Fleta's silver for me as well.
Striker came in and went insane.
I mean, Striker's been insane on Tracer.
So
Season 1, he should have, in my opinion, he should have been close to MVP, if not MVP, based off his Tracer. If Jonak wasn't a thing, I think he should have won MVP.
I could see
easily.
that, but he is MVP this year, but not because of just the Tracer, because we got Striker coming in with gold for the Tracer. And
yeah, well, I mean, I don't think Fleta was top on everything. I think it was just the top on everything he played.
Yeah, and
except Echo. We're not going to talk about that though.
Now let's. I want to shout out honorable mention to Prophet for having some pretty good Tracer performances, but stats wise, he just didn't land up there. So then,
I'll shout out Dante because he's just insane sometimes.
True though, like he is pretty nuts. And then the next one,
pretty nutty.
We're gonna give away our best Winston award. We're gonna do the same format we did with Tracer. And entries we got here, we got Fearless, we got Smurf, we got Sato, and Hydration. Because
he wanted the hydration. I wasn't gonna deny him of good hydration.
Hear me out. Hydration probably doesn't belong in the best Winston, but he might be the best Winston that has the little DPS logo by his name. So.
I mean, have you seen the Timing Winston season 1?
Well.
Yeah, that was some wild.
Hydration better. So, anyways, the Hydration's the meme there. The real medals are going to be between Fearless, Smurf, and Sato.
Look at Hydration. Wow, I can't believe you actually.
Hydration. Wow, you really tried playing Winston. I never would have thought that preseason.
It kind of worked. It worked.
Honestly, Hydration looked better than Muma on Winston when he played it. So.
Hydration looked better with the team. But we're not talking about about Hydration.
We're going on a tangent here. So now we got bronze medal Winston. What do you think, Sato?
Yeah.
Because the reason I think that is because I think Fearless is gold. Fearless is the best Winston in the league. And then Smurf, while his Winston has been absolutely insane, I think Smurf edges out Sato, but I don't think he edges out Fearless.
Well, the reason I have Smurf over Sato is because when they played each other, I think Smurf just fucking dominated.
True.
The dude's a nasty player on the Winston. But although Fearless is really good on the Winston, I don't think they had nearly as dominant as performances as sometimes Smurf had on this Winston this year. Not saying Fearless didn't have dominant performances on Winston. I think he absolutely did. I think Smurf on some of these games, it was Smurf and Striker. It was a 2v6. Honestly, it was 2v6, and they were dominating teams with just those two. They dive on 2 players or whatever, and they'd come out and they'd kill everyone. Fearless, first of all, is primal I'd say Primal Blades because that's just what I think of.
Primal Blades.
Dude, like they destroyed kids. Same thing with Smurf. Same thing with Sada. They all had really good Primal Rages overall. But just seeing how dirty it was that two players were dominating a team like that on both Tracer and Winston, it was unreal. Honestly, unreal. So I think you have Fearless as your gold. I have as my gold with Fearless and Silver.
That's
but
understandable.
Right now, although this sounds like just a hypothetical because we never saw Fearless versus Smurf. Holy, Fearless versus Smurf. This is definitely something that we could see in the foreseeable future.
It could be the finals.
It could be the finals.
Likely.
It could be
likely for the finals. So
this could be something that at least winners finals. I think that could win the games and move on from there. I think they're at least playing each other once. It'd be a shame to not see these two teams play each other. Absolute shame. But I'm giving it to Smurf. I think Smurfs. I think both of the Fearless and Smurf should have made it into the MVP nominations. I know I'm not alone on that. I know people are annoyed that people are saying that still, but I do think they both deserved MVP and they didn't get it, mostly because it was Orisa meta this whole season. But maybe next week we'll do best Orisa.
Oh,
that'd be fucking hilarious.
It's me.
I know you'd enjoy that. I think it's a meme, but I think you'd generally that. Oh god, we're gonna do it next. God, I shouldn't have said anything. But
oh man, and it's the Golden Orisa Award. But
I think yeah, I think
tweet at
I think Smurf has it from
the
me.
Golden Orisa Award before next week.
Or tweet whoever you think between Fearless and Smurf. Tweet at us. We'd love to know.
Okay, that's bringing us close to the end of this show. We got anything else Overwatch League to talk about before we do some business and then off topics? Rock and roll.
Just be prepared. This is off season now for some teams.
Oh yeah,
be prepared.
And we might get short on news and might resort to getting goofy with the shows during the off season, but I embrace it. I back it. I hope y'all do too.
I could talk about any of this for an hour.
Oh, for sure. And I've got some ideas. I'll talk to you after the show.
We have some ideas.
But we do have a review from the show. Make sure if you like the show, head on over to your favorite podcatcher, wherever you watch the show, and leave us a comment or a review, and we read it on the show. We have a new review from Monday, and it is from Kids in Arkand. Oh, dude. I'm sorry if I mispronounce your name. I need some hyphens to know which syllables are together. But I'm gonna call it
Kids in Arkand.
Kids in Arkand. Kids in Arkand. We're just gonna call him Kid.
Kids in Arkand.
Is it Kids in Arkand?
Hey Kid.
Whatever, Kid.
Hey Kid.
So Kid, thank you for the review. It's a 5-star review that says best owl podcast out there. These guys are great. I listen every week and have been listening for almost a year now. I really like how structured it is. I love how they ask each other how they're doing at the beginning. Really adds a nice touch instead of being all business. And then they are very thorough in their coverage of Overwatch League news, game recaps, and predictions. I recommend this to all our Overwatch League lovers out there like myself. Keep up the good work. Thanks for all the content. No need for improvement. Show is perfect as it is. And that is a very nice review. We're
super nice.
Yeah,
but there's always room for improvement, boy.
For sure. I mean, we'll see what we can do in these coming weeks.
I mean, me and Booger, we've only been doing this for a few months, right? So it's like,
dude, we're coming close to a year, though.
Are we?
It was around Halloween time when we started doing it, I believe. Maybe it was November.
I don't know.
Either way, it's been longer than you think. Yeah. But you want to let the people know about the Overwatch recall?
Yeah, you can find additional Overwatch content on our website via Overwatch Recall. Every Sunday, we release the weekly recall that lists the episodes released within the last week. For more info, follow Overwatch Recall on Twitter at Overwatch Recall. That sentence Every Sunday we release the weekly recall that lists the episodes released within the last week. Should be a tongue twister.
It is,
honestly.
and you perfected it with lots of practice.
Yeah, well, I can talk about my speech practices as a kid, but we're gonna talk that should be a later thing. But support our podcast network via Patreon. If you'd like to show some additional support to our Overwatch network of Overwatch shows, consider pledging via Patreon. Tiers start at just $1 a month. More information can be found at https://www.patreon.com/OWL network. You too can join the likes of our master and above patrons, Daniel, Owl, Kasha, Agent Life, and 044 in helping our network grow. And Booger, how can they contact the show?
You can send us an email to contact@owlnshow.com. You can find our website at owlrecall.com. Our Twitter is @OWLNshow. You can find all past episodes of the show at youtube.com/Overwatch League Network. We have a Discord that is discord.me/OWLNshow. All of our shows are aired live on Twitch at twitch.tv/OWLNshow. We are a Twitch affiliate, so you can help support the show by subscribing to the channel and earn the network emoticon. The podcast streams regularly. Overwatch League Network, this show airs Mondays at 6 p.m. We got Overwatch League by the Numbers airing Tuesdays at 6 p.m. And then Heroes Never Die, the variety Overwatch show, airs Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific time. And if you want to contact the host, you can find me on Twitter at BoogerBrains with 2 Z's. And Anura, how can everybody find you?
You can find me at Twitter. I'm still on the Fall Guys grind, so I'm keeping what I've been doing lately. Anura FG, Anura Fall Guys.
Okay.
Sure, I have no time. Sure, I can't play any video games. I still love Fall Guys. I still like looking at the content. Maybe next time I'll have an AU, but I haven't had time to play that game. It looks pretty solid. My main thing is, although I do play Overwatch a lot more than I used to, I just think it's funny to have Fall Guys on your username, so I'm gonna keep it that way. So yeah, follow me on Twitter at NURG.
Okay.
I tweet about Overwatch League, surprisingly, and not about Fall Guys at all, really. So.
And before we close out, a little bit of off-topic gaming discussion. And Nura, have you played Among Us yet?
No.
Dude.
I've been getting up at 4 a.m., brother, and going to sleep. This is late. This is a late night for me.
It is.
I do. I've been watching some content.
It's so
overall
hilarious. Like, I have.
Oh yeah.
Anytime that I get some buddies online, I'm just like, we got to play Among Us. So if any of the listeners are listening live and want to play Among Us after we go offline in about 10 minutes from when the podcast ends is when I'm going to start playing it. So shoot me a message and we'll get a squad. Yeah, I ain't got to work till nights tomorrow. I'm on nights for almost the rest of the week. So I'm ready to game. I might do some early morning gaming too. Like that's where I'm at right now. But we hope that all of our listeners have a great week. We hope you catch every imposter, you gain every slice of SR, and you just have a good week because, yeah, do it.